Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe. I'm a contributor at Forbes covering social entrepreneurship and impact investing. Our guest today on the show is a bright young social entrepreneur named Mark Horoszowski, and he is the CEO and founder of Moving Worlds. Mark, thank you very much for joining us.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Devin.
Well, the pleasure is all ours, and we appreciate you making the time for the show today. Moving Worlds is doing something that I think is novel and exciting, but you are creating a marketplace where people can find volunteer experts who then get an opportunity to volunteer using their expertise. And I find this very, very tantalizing. Tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. So the basic premise is, if we kind of step back and look at the idea of global development, one of the biggest challenges is a lack of access to skills or to expertise. And so what we're really working on is motivating people to use their vacations, their sabbaticals, their career changes, or even some of their corporate time to go volunteer their skills with nonprofits or startups or social enterprises or accelerator hubs around the world. And in exchange, kind of get an immersive travel experience in that. Free place to live, free place to stay, and of course connections to people in the local community.
Well, this really is a wonderful, wonderful idea. I've done a little bit of volunteering in recent years, and whether I'm volunteering locally or abroad, a lot of times I end up doing simple manual labor, and there I feel real value and connection in that, but I also worry that I'm not contributing what I could be at my max when I am not leveraging my skills. And if you're using an out of shape middle-aged guy to do manual labor, I sometimes wonder if that's the best use of me. And that's the problem you seem to be addressing, is trying to tap into expertise. How did that come about?
Yeah, I guess like every organization, it's got a story. I actually, about 5-6 years ago, I had applied for a fellowship program with the Acumen Fund, which I still think the world of, but made it into interviews, but I wasn't accepted. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll go create my own fellowship. So I spent a year traveling and volunteering, and really my focus was to spend time in social entrepreneurial communities, what made them flourish, what made them didn't. And along the way, I actually met Dirk Nord, who's the co-founder of Moving Worlds. And we kind of connected over this idea of, there's small organizations, and they're always asking for money, but sometimes they need an accounting system first, or they need help with their operational costs. And we thought, well, maybe there's a way to address those challenges for especially earlier stage organizations or ideas or initiatives. And those are often talent challenges. And the kind of famous question that Dirk asked me was, are there a lot of people like you going and doing this, traveling and volunteering? He had come from the finance side, and he knew that there were lots of organizations that needed it. And we said, look, it sounds like an idea worth validating. So kind of a happenstance meetup, and here we are about 5 years later with a matching website to help people do that, and also supporting a couple corporate programs that are now really embracing this idea of fueling innovation or diversity of thought and leadership development using these types of experiences.
So tell us a little bit more about some of the kinds of volunteer opportunities or experteer opportunities that are being requested on the matchmaking side today.
Sure. So we tend to see four main types. The very short projects are like a training. Maybe it's a startup accelerator or that wants to provide their startups with marketing expertise or some technology coaching. Then we'll see some projects that start to get a little bit longer, like consulting. So maybe a organization in a scale process that's trying to figure out their operational costs. How do we get those under control? And then we'll see some people that have a very specific project, like I need help with a website, or earlier I mentioned accounting systems, set up an accounting system. And then sometimes we see people that ask for very long-term projects. Like we've had smaller startups say, look, we need a CFO for a year to help us get all our finances in order so we can raise, financing and continue to scale. So they tend to fall in one of those categories.
Now, Mark, I'm going to ask you just to step a tiny bit closer to your laptop so we
Sure.
can hear you just a little bit better. But it really is a great program that you've got running, and I think the idea is great. Tell us a little bit about who the volunteers are. It seems to me it could be anyone, but who is it? Who does it appeal most to, and how's it working?
Sure. Yeah. The focus is anybody with skills that they can demonstrate. So typically, our biggest group are the young to early career professionals, 2 to 10 years of experience. Maybe they want to switch careers. Maybe they're looking to get some international experience to help kind of build up their promotion package or their CV. On the total opposite side, we see very late career professionals, early retirees who have enough to live on and now really want to find a way to give back. And then in the middle, we do see some more mid-career professionals, but we know that they're typically ones with families or kind of in these mid-level management positions, which sometimes are harder to step away for longer terms from. So they definitely come, but not as much. And then I'd say probably our smallest segment is our students who are maybe like graduate or just going into a graduate program or just exiting a graduate program and doing this either to help kind of round out their curriculum or kind of before they step into a full-time job. How
do you measure expertise?
Yeah, that's a great question. At the end of the day, we don't. We ask you to demonstrate it to an extent. Add a profile, add your portfolio to your profile, show it in some way. But what really happens is after a match is made, we don't say, "All right, Devin, time to go buy your plane ticket to Moving World to Colombia." We say, "Hey, get on Skype, have a conversation, work through this planning guide that we've created." And in that process, you really dive down into more and more detail about the project scope and the expertise. And that's really where we really leave it up to the field organization to say, is this the right person for us? And they're in that, partnership starts to get created. We've checked for verification and communication. And that's really when a person is also able to decide, is this the right organization for me?
Are the organizations, the sponsoring organizations, are they providing any help at all with lodging, food, transportation? What's customary? What are you seeing among your the outfits needing volunteers?
Sure. So the one thing that all projects have in common is that they don't charge you to volunteer. And then from then on, we say we encourage the organizations to provide as much as possible. Typically, that ends up being a free place to stay. It's gone all the way up to include a return flight, and it's kind of gone all the way down to be like, well, I can offer you a couch in my place. It very much depends on the organization. Some startups are one people with no resources. Some are, multinational NGOs with, thousands of employees, and so each one's able to offer a little bit different. And what we try and do on the platform is let every organization be able to explain what they're capable of offering.
Now, I notice you have some fun search tools so that people who are interested in a particular service type or particular geography have an easy time searching through the site to find the opportunities that would be a good match.
Yeah, so everybody's different, right? Some people are like, give me Colombia and I don't care what cause. Other people are, give me a marketing project for 3 weeks. I don't care where it is. And so we not only create filters so that you can do that, but the biggest challenge that we have is people really want to see a crystal cut project, before they really apply, before they go do this. And quite frankly, the chance of that project being posted live on the website at the time that you're searching for it is pretty small. And so what we do by collecting those searches and information is then actually go out, work with our partners to say, hey, this month, we've got 100 people interested in Southeast Asia. They're looking on average to go 3 to 6 weeks. Here's some of their profiles. Do you have a project for these people? And we make about a third of our matches in more of that kind of custom way. Ask any startup what help they need, and there's no shortage of tasks. and sometimes they just need to see the right profile to come forward with the project. So those filters are not only helpful for the user, but they help us kind of get smarter and make sure we're putting the right projects on the platform.
Is there any opportunity for married couples to go together? Have you ever been able to match people up to a pair of people to two opportunities?
Yeah, and we've done both two people in the same place, but different projects, and then we've done two people on the same project. Like, one was Liz and Dan, one was a designer, one was a developer. They got to really work together to help a startup in Indonesia offer services to small businesses. Other times we've seen people go together and work in like the same community, but one's maybe working with a school and one with an accelerator. So usually in those cases, we'll take the one with the more challenging skills, get them matched, and then work through our partnership network to get the other matched. But yeah, it seems to be a really cool experience that couples have, and I know my wife and I have experteering on our bucket list. So we're looking forward to copying some of our experteers.
For sure. My wife and I experteered for a year. We didn't know it was called that, but we did. We spent a year in China at South China University of Technology 3 or 4 years ago. Great experience. So I really would commend this as a great way for people to find fun opportunities to really give back. Tell me a little bit. I want to just shift gears a little bit and talk about you personally, Mark. You've really accomplished a lot, especially for such a young guy. I wonder if you would just answer a few questions. But first, as you become a role model to other people, I wonder who you look to as a role model.
That's a good question. I almost want to come back to your first statement. Dirk's my co-founder. He has even more experience than I have, and so our early team members, have been just incredible for us, and a lot of them came with prior experience in this space. So it's the team, I think, that's really come together and done so much. As for role models, I take one of our first experteers. To me, was a total role model. He had a really promising future in architecture, took a very kind of unorthodox path, and was the first person to ever kind of jump onto our platform. And his name's Drew. Most people haven't heard of him, but I just, his spirit of what's most important is the process, not the reputation, and the measurement of impact, not my own accomplishments. And his focus on that, just through his experience, taught us so much as a company, and just to work with somebody who is so talented and so humble. We reflect on his experience all the time. On the other side, and maybe cliche in this space, but Jacqueline Novogratz and her work with Acumen Fund, and then there's a group in Seattle that's a younger, earlier stage investor called Upaya Social Ventures, and their leader is Sachi. The focus that they've really helped steer in the impact investing field to instill dignity into others, and really let people create their own solutions, is not only very inspirational for me to see as a leader and see them in action, but I think also to have learned from them and the great work that they've done in the field. And that's really been a platform that we've been able to build on top of to make sure that we're doing these things the right way as well.
Yeah, I can't help but think, as smart as you are, as successful as you've been, that if you had chosen to do something else, you might have made even more money. If you had said, I'm going to set aside, my desire for social good, and I'm just going to focus on making money. Why have you chosen to do this? Why do you care about making the world a better place?
Yeah. When I grew up, I spent a lot of time volunteering. And I actually attributed a lot of kind of my earlier success to volunteering. The first time that I was leading a team at a marketing agency, my second job out of my master's program, I had already managed teams and bigger budgets through volunteer experience. And that experience was just so valuable to me, and I know I made an impact along the way. So I really became passionate about this idea of there's a way to kind of grow yourself while also making the world a better place. And you know, certainly I live in Seattle. There's a tech scene here where a lot of startups are going for a lot more money than, you know, than we are. But just having been in the field and spent that time volunteering, just seeing the transformative experience that comes in these engagements. You know, in my first 2 jobs, I saw paths to a lot more money, but actually seeing the impact in the field, it felt like, you know, there's a way to do both, and I'm happy with less things, and you know, and I have a wonderful wife who's you know, also has a full-time income, and you know, we've kind of committed to, you know, we don't need to shoot for the stars in terms of making millions. We've heard some reports that, you know, around that, you know, different income levels, you can just kind of level off there and live a good, healthy life, and really be proud when you look back on your life 30 years later. So we've kind of heard that and read that enough that we decided to kind of stick that path as a couple, and certainly couldn't have done it without her. But you know, I think the main focus has just really been, you know, find passionate work, make sure it contributes to the greater good, and be able to put food on our own table. If we do that, we're confident in the future.
Fantastic. Now, last question. As I look at you as a successful person, I and everyone else who's listening wants to learn from you something that we can do that would enable us to have more impact. So what's something you do every day, a habit, a pattern that we could incorporate into our own lives that we could copy from you?
Sure. You know, it's actually, it's kind of a funny, timely question. I've been reflecting on some of my daily habits recently. And in talking to some of my team members, you know, one of them especially is he's incredible at asking questions. His name's Baron, and I feel like every time I talk to him, I start to realize all the things that I do wrong. And that's certainly not his intent, but I by far make the most mistakes out of anybody else on my team. And I'm starting to get into a habit of looking back on my mistakes from the day before, just kind of embracing those, and then doing a quick kind of mental checklist of what went well on the road to that mistake, what went poorly on the way to that mistake, and how could I learn from it. And what I've realized in kind of the last couple months of doing this is that I'm able to sleep a little bit easier at night, kind of giving myself a little bit of hey, it's okay to make mistakes and to sleep better with that. But then at the same time, it's really kind of fostering a learning environment. Don't make that same mistake again and again. And so it's probably in the mindfulness category, but just trying to give myself a little bit of room to breathe, but also keep improving as a person.
That's a great issue. You know, I think everybody struggles with that a little bit, and trying to find that sweet spot of being able to live with and accept our mistakes and learn from them both is a really healthy attitude. I think that's a great insight for us to contemplate and add to our lives. Well, listen, Mark, thank you so much for being with us today. Before you go, tell us how people can find Moving Worlds and learn more about it and connect with you.
Sure. You know, we'd love to engage with you on movingworlds.org. You can come in there. We've got our contact information plastered all over the site. We really mean that. Email us, ask us questions. If you prefer Twitter, then, you know, find us at experteering. Or if you want to just catch me, then I'm at Mark Horoszowski. And, you know, really we value any and all feedback and comments and connections. So, Devin, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Really appreciate you being with us today, Mark, and wish you every success in the great work that you're doing.
All right. No, thanks so much, and all the same to you and all your great listeners. So, really appreciate it.
Now let's do some good.